In my left hand is the Omega Planet Ocean 600 meters, whereas in my right is the Omega Seamaster Professional 300 meters. Today, we're putting these watches head to head and seeing who comes out on top. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And before we start this head-to-head versus video, if you could hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so let's dive straight into this video, pardon the pun. And for the purposes of this video, we do have my white dial Omega Seamaster, which is my personal watch, and also the Omega Planet Ocean. This isn't my watch, but I have been wearing it for around a week. So I've got a good variation, a good know-how and understanding of how both of these watches kind of fit and feel on the wrist. So the first spec that everyone seems to be so drawn to in the industry is obviously the case diameter. So the Seamaster in my right hand, or what was in my right hand, comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter, whereas the Planet Ocean comes in at 43.5, which is considerably more chunky. But please remember that the Planet Ocean goes to 600 meters of water resistance, or is resistant to 600 meters, whereas the Professional 300 meters is only, as the word suggests, resistant to 300 meters. Now, yes, the Planet Ocean does wear a lot more chunky than the Seamaster itself, and I wouldn't say that it fits my wrists, coming in at 6.5 inches. However, the Planet Ocean is meant to be chunky. It's meant to be big, it's meant to be bold, and if you want something smaller, I'd go for the Seamaster. Adding a little bit more to that kind of chunky, bold aesthetic, the Planet Ocean actually comes in at 15.7 millimeters in thickness, whereas the Seamaster in my right hand at the moment comes in at 13.7. Now, this is a pretty substantial difference, and you can definitely feel this when on the wrist. But not only the fact that you can feel it, there's not only the fact you can feel it, but you can actually you notice how much this weighs, the head of this watch weighs comparatively to the Seamaster. And actually, that's pretty nice, because when you put this on, you kind of know that you have something real, something of quality, a proper tool watch on your wrist. Now let's get a little bit more of an accurate representation of exactly how much the Planet Ocean weighs. So roughly, our scales say that it comes in at about 217 grams, and that's with the bracelet and all the links. The Seamaster, which is in my hands at the moment, actually comes in, this is with the bracelet and full links, we've measured this before, comes in at about 164 grams. So that is so much lighter. And honestly, when you pick these two models up, you can feel that difference. You truly, truly can. The bracelets on both of these models they're interesting. They truly, truly are. Now, the Planet Ocean's bracelet kind of has an oyster feel. It has a 3-link approach, with the center link being a little bit more wide than the outer two. It actually looks quite nice. It has quite an aggressive taper on it. It has a deployant clasp at the bottom here, and it has macro adjustments at the back, so that if you're in a wetsuit or it's hot or cold and your wrist expands, you can kind of shrink it down or scale it up depending on what you want. Now, the Seamaster's bracelet it's interesting. It's kind of a love-or-hate in the industry, and a lot of people want to see it updated. Now, I do quite like the bracelet. However, I prefer the rubber strap and the NATO strap on the Seamaster. And when comparing these two bracelets together, I would honestly vouch for the Planet Ocean every single time. Its bracelet is so thick, so sturdy, and such a good quality. I'm not saying that the Seamaster's isn't, but the design of the Seamaster's just isn't there for me. It isn't as good. With that said, it does have those macro extensions if you want to use them, but the Planet Ocean wins here. By the way, if you want to try these on, both of these models, but don't have an AD near you, I have a solution. And I'm trying to make this not a plug, because this is genuinely what I use, but I'll tell you anyway. So I normally go onto the Chisholm Hunter website, I'll link it below, and we actually have, we've bought a digital try-on feature. Essentially what you do is you take a picture of your wrist, and after you take a picture of your wrist, it digitally photoshops, I don't know how it does it, the watch onto your wrist. And it's a really good way of gauging if a watch is too big for your wrist before you actually go and try it on. I mean, you can sit watching the TV or having a beer and just take a photo of your wrist, and you've pretty much just tried a watch on. When you look at the case of both of these watches, they have huge, huge differences. I feel like the Seamaster 300 meters is a lot more sexy, it's a lot more photogenic, a lot more elegant. It has long legs, long lugs, shall we say. And that looks a lot more elegant. It looks less tool-like. Whereas when you look at the Seamaster 600 meter Professional, it is a lot more tool-like. It's a lot more stubby, short, and purposeful. And that's kind of a personal choice. I mean, do you want your watch to do stuff or do you want your watch to look cool? It's up to you. Both of these watches have pretty beautiful polished lines running down those lugs, and that kind of looks like it accentuates them that little bit, especially on the Seamaster 300m. Now, a love or hate in the industry, to many, and I've had some criticism for this, is the helium escape valve. Some people love it. I personally think it's totally iconic. Now, when we look at these 600m, we can see that the crown and also the helium escape valve are a lot more stubby and a lot more bold. They're a lot more purposeful. And I feel like that goes back to the tool watch feel of that model. Whereas on the Seamaster, they're a lot less bold. And they're a lot less bulky, they're a lot less thick. They're actually a little bit smaller. And also, they kind of taper inwards. They're more designed, more elegant than the Planet Ocean, its bigger brother, so to speak. The Planet Ocean kind of reminds me a lot of my brother, you know? It's big, it's bold, it's purposeful, it does a job. Whereas I look pretty and pretend I know what I'm talking about. Now, something that the Seamaster 300m has, which the Planet Ocean doesn't, is actually crown guards. And essentially what crown guards do is they protect the crown. They guard the crown. They are crown guards. And the Seamaster 600m doesn't have these. Now, a reason why they did this, I believe, is to make it look a little bit smaller. 43.5mm is pretty chunky. It's pretty huge. So I believe they took away the crown guards to try and slim that face down just a touch. Now, it's actually worked. And I can't really tell if I like the crown guards on my Seamaster or not. And the more that I look at the Planet Ocean, the more I like it. The bezel on the Seamaster 300m is very different to the bezel on the Planet Ocean. And one of the huge differences you'll see is that there's actually very limited teeth on, actually there's no teeth on the 300m. It kind of has gradual slopes inwards, and it's very nicely designed. It's very nice to look at, but functionally in a big wetsuit, you want big teeth so that you can get them in and move your hand around. Ooh. It's quite nice, isn't it? Whereas on the Planet Ocean, you do have those teeth. You do have that functionality. And you can get your teeth right in, or your hand right in with rubber gloves if you had them on, and do that. Ooh. Who sounds better? You guys decide. As you can see here, both of these models have pretty incredible looms. Honestly, Omega diving watches in general have great looms, and they do look super sexy. With that said, I would have expected more loom, if you will, from the Planet Ocean, given that it goes to 600m instead of 3. Diving into the face of both of these models, there's huge differences in aesthetics. I mean, I'll say it one more time for those at the back. One is a tool watch, and one is pretty. It still does stuff. It's still cool. But it is a lot more pretty, I would say. The waves running through the dial on the 300m were one of the primary reasons that I bought it. Genuinely, they are so attractive, and the way they look in different lights is phenomenal. Whereas you strip that all back when you get to the Planet Ocean, and you just have a flat, glossed dial, because it's a tool watch. The hands on both of these models are totally different. I mean, you have skeletonized hands on the Omega Seamaster 300m, whereas you don't have skeletonized hands on the Planet Ocean. Skeletonized hands are a love or hate for somebody. I've stressed quite a lot that I do really like them. But if you don't like skeletonized hands, then maybe the Planet Ocean is for you. The date window is another pretty major thing that's different. I mean, the Seamaster 300m is at 6 o'clock, and it's quite small, quite dainty, quite well designed. And on the Planet Ocean, it's at 3 o'clock. No idea why they did that. Because to me, symmetry makes a watch. You want your watch to be aesthetically appealing. And maybe this is the photographer in me. You know, I do photography and videography. Maybe this is the photographer in me that's attracted to symmetrical stuff, but I don't know why you would skew things to one side with a 3 o'clock date window. This is my opinion, and I don't want to influence yours. However, I'm just not into 3 o'clock date windows. The actual hour markers themselves are, again, hugely different. I mean, on the Planet Ocean, you have the numerals 12, 6, and 9. However, at where the 3 o'clock mark should be, you have a date window. Don't know why they did that. And then the hour markers themselves, everything else, has kind of a thin rectangle filled with superluminova, which we'll take a look at in a second, running through them. Whereas on the Seamaster, design-wise, it just looks a little bit nicer. You have a combination of circles and rectangles, whereas at the 12 o'clock mark, you have 2 rectangles sitting beside each other. To me, functionally, if you're using this watch underwater and you're diving and you are a diver, the Planet Ocean is the obvious choice. It's the obvious place to go. But if you want something that just looks pretty, it looks Instagrammable. If you're a photographer like me, you'd probably want the 300 meters. Both of these watches have open casebacks, and I'm very impressed with the fact they kept an open caseback on the Planet Ocean, because it can go to 600 meters underwater. And that's partially why it needs to be a little bit thicker. The glass needs to be reinforced that little bit more, because if you take it to that depth, it could easily implode. The movements in these models are slightly different, however, they're pretty much the same. The movement in the Planet Ocean is the Omega Caliber 8900. This is a self-winding movement with a coaxial escapement. It's certified by Master Chronometer, approved by METAS, and resistant to magnetic fields reaching 15,000 Gauss. It has a free-sprung balance with silicon balance spring, 2 barrels mounted in series, and it's automatic winding in both directions. It also has a 60-hour power reserve. The Omega Seamaster 300 meters has the Omega Caliber 8800, a self-winding movement with a coaxial escapement certified by Master Chronometer again and approved by METAS, and it's resistant to magnetic fields reaching 15,000 Gauss. It also has a free-sprung balance with a silicon balance spring and an automatic winding in both directions. It also has a 55-hour power reserve, so not quite as good as the Planet Ocean. Both of these watches have domed sapphire crystal glass with anti-reflective coating on the underbelly and also the front of the watch. Now, I've heard a lot of complaints. Actually, through the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram page, I have received abuse about the scratch-resistant sapphire crystal glass, because technically anti-reflective coating on the underbelly, but also the top, will scratch a little bit more because it's a softer stuff, so to speak. However, I've had this watch for, I want to say 4 to 5 years. I might be slightly out. And I've never, ever scratched it. And I've taken it everywhere. Before we get to the price, which is obviously the kind of the crux of most watch purchases, I would sum it up in one way. I would say the Planet Ocean is the tool watch. It's the doer's watch. The 300 meters does have the functionality, which is good. However, you're probably not getting it for the functionality. You're probably buying it for the style, for the aesthetics. The Planet Ocean comes in at £6,700, whereas the Omega Seamaster comes in at £5,600. I would expect there to be more of a price gap given the amount of functionality that this has. And I do feel that for the Omega Seamaster, you're paying more for the looks, really, than anything else. Honestly, this is a tough one. It really depends on what you're going to use the watch for. It depends if you are a genuine diver or you are genuinely looking for a tool rather than something that's just sexy. For me, I'm looking for something that's sexy. I would go with the Seamaster. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this Chisholm Hunter video. If you did enjoy, please hit that subscribe button or that little bell icon. Get notifications when there's sexy new watches released. And I will see you guys real soon.